Okay, for our final installment on this assignment, we're going to finally address what are called media queries. I have the finished file open in a browser here, so let me demonstrate what media queries do. Again, they will allow what shows up on the screen and how it shows up on the screen based on the width of your browser. And this is how we detect the various devices. Okay, so I'm on a fairly wide screen view here right now. So I'm just going to narrow this down. I have two trigger points known as breakpoints. Okay, and we're going to get close to one. So here's my first threshold. So I just changed two features in this just to demonstrate. Number one is the bar at the top, the nav bar. I've changed the color on that in the gradient. And the second thing is I decreased the size of this second section tag headline. Again, just to show you an obvious change, okay? I have one more trigger here, so let me get even smaller. And this one is intended to address cell phones. So if I get to a certain width, suddenly I change the color in the bar, yes. This is actually changed again. And the big thing is the layout. It is no longer in two columns, it's in one long column, okay? So the way that that works is we create media queries, and then within those you can customize existing classes and styles and so on, and you can also create unique ones just for that media query. And you can also hide and show various media styles as well. So there's a lot you can do with that based on the browser width. Okay, so let me bounce over to Dreamweaver. And I'm going to show you my finished file here quickly. And let me just open this up a bit here. So finally, we are approaching the at media section in our CSS Designer. We've been skipping it up until now. So I have three distinctly defined areas. I'll start with the green one here, which is based on a maximum width of 595 pixels. And you can see when I clicked on the bar, it did shrink it to show me what that was. And if I click on this middle aqua colored bar, that is this minimum width and maximum width. So I'm defining a start and end, if you will, within the dimensions of 600 pixels and 999 pixels. I'm saying when the browser is in that range of widths, it will have these properties. And in this case, I've changed the color up here, and this headline was changed in size. And then finally we go to this one here. And you know what, to go full screen here, I can just double click this icon here and it goes full screen. So anything above 1000 pixels basically is my default settings. So let me explain these four categories here. You do see the distinct media queries, but we have the original one called global. All right, so global is always the default one. It contains all of the selectors and class styles and so on that were created initially. All right, and you can see them there. So let me show you the unique ones. So if I click on here, I only have one that changes here, where I've changed the headline size. So when I'm over 1000 pixels, I've made this even bigger. Okay, and the definitions are contained in that class style. If I go to the middle one here, I have a couple of variations on the big headline. I've changed it, and I've changed the navigation, which contains the information for the colors. And similarly on this representing the smallest section, I have a few more in here that I have changed. Okay, the section and the aside were changed in order to take away the left and right column features. I believe I just took the float away from that. So how that works though, let me go back to the global set. All right, so let's say you've got all of these styles created. It works great inside of your desktop browser. But you want to set up a media query for something smaller. To initiate a media query, there's a couple of ways we can do this. Number one, if you're in live mode, you can click on this plus sign to create a media query at that spot on the ruler. This is a little gripper that I can grab, and then I can click this plus button, and I now have a new media query potentially. I'm going to cancel that, but that's how I can sort of do it manually on the screen in live mode. Okay, I'm going to double click this again to open the width. The other way is to go to the media plus button here and then choose your criteria here. So there's a lot to work with. It can get quite complex, but we're going to work with minimum width, maximum width, and maybe a combination of both. So if I wanted to set one up here, I could choose minimum width, and establish a number of pixels. Let's say 800 pixels. Just type that in there, 800 pixels, and click OK. And suddenly I have yet another one based on a minimum width. I am going to undo that. And I think at this point we're ready to bounce over to our file and start to implement some @media queries. Okay, so let's jump over to our current file. And let's see here. We'll try one in either method, if you will. Maybe I'll just drag my gripper down to the 1000 pixel mark. And then click on the plus sign. And here, if let's say you're off the target a little, you can correct it here. Okay, I'm going to go with minimum width for this right now, which takes anything from here and larger, and we'll apply it. Create a new CSS file? No, I just want to put it in my current CSS. Very important to do that. Okay, so I'm saving the criteria minimum width, 1000 pixels, saved in my current CSS file. I click OK. It generates this right here. Okay, so right now it's blank. So we're going to go back to global, and I'm going to show you how you can actually copy a current style and drop it into the desired media query. So the way you do that is you just go down to your selector, and in this case, let's see here. I guess I'm going to affect the tag headline, and I'd use the thing called headline. So I'm going to right click on dot headline, duplicate into media query. I only have one to choose from, and that appears on my list. If I had others, they would appear as options. Okay, so I'm going to click there. And then, well, there's my media query. So I am going to double click this so that I can see the change when it happens. And let's go into our media query. So you select a specific query and then select the selector, and you can make these properties unique to this environment only. So font size, let's just make it bigger here. I'll say 55. Let's live with 55. I'll do a save all. And that's our first media query. So let's actually test that. Google Chrome. Okay, so when I go smaller than 1000, this headline should change size. There it goes. So there's the 1000 pixel threshold right there. And maybe, you know, looking at that, I would fine tune that. So maybe I'll make it just a little bit smaller. I can either make it smaller or get the trigger to happen where I see it right there. And maybe I'll do that actually. So let's go back to Dreamweaver. And I'm just going to edit that breaking point, that media query. And I can do that by double clicking on the media query itself and just changing this. I'm going to just push it up 100 pixels to the right. So it's going to have to be a little bigger before it changes. Okay, save that. Again, save all. And another check in the browser. I just didn't want that little awkward stacking of the headline. Right? So, okay, and we'll address it down here as well. But right now, that's what I wanted. I didn't want it to sort of go on two lines. Okay, so that's at 1100 pixels. All right, we will deal with that other change later, or I can change it in its global setting right now so that it doesn't change so rapidly down here. But I'll determine that when I'm creating the next section down. So let's go back to Dreamweaver again, and we'll do our next media query. Okay, so I'm going to create the next media query by clicking the plus button this time. Just try a different technique here. And we'll start with a minimum width. And I'm going to say the minimum width will be 600 pixels. It's kind of meant for the middle section here. And then we can add another one, hit the plus sign, and we're going to add a maximum width. So minimum width and maximum width. Let me make sure I don't pick height. Maximum width. There we go. And since this is at 1100, I'm just going to bring it 1 pixel below that. Okay, so that will be 1099. Hit my tab key to enter that. And that's my next media query. So again, it's going to handle the middle section. You'll see it appear when I click OK. And it's defined by this area here. Okay, right there. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to copy the style that affects the bar and the style that affects this headline, and we're going to make this smaller, and we're going to make this a different color. So those can be derived from the global settings. And the navigation was defining that bar, so I'm going to right click on navigation, duplicate into media query, min max, minimum 600, maximum 1099, and I can start there, I guess. So I'll click on that media query, highlight the selector, and make any changes I want. So I'm just going to change the gradient color. I'm going to come down here and click on the black, and instead of black, I'm going to make it like a dark purple. Like that, okay? And I can hit enter, and you can see how that has changed. Again, if I go to the large size, it's black. When we come down to this size, rather this size here, it's purple. So let's also address this headline thing. So I'll go back to my global styles. I had one class called headline. Right click that, duplicate into media query. Again, my min max one. And call that up here, and I'm just going to lower it in size. So that's maybe down to 32 or so, at least for now. So let's just get 32 here, and that's a little better, I guess. Let's just do a save all. And I'll try this in the browser too. So Google Chrome. Okay, so it's black there until I get to 10,099 pixels. Then this should change color, and this should get a bit smaller in size. Okay. There we go. Okay. And then this won't shrink so quickly. Maybe I can go even smaller, but ultimately I want to have something around here that's going to change as well. Okay. But I think I will make that smaller than 32. Maybe we'll go 24, 28. So let's go back to Dreamweaver and just fine tune this thing. Okay, so again, I'm in the min max. Make sure you're in the min max when you make this change. And I'll go to my headline, and it looks like for some reason it didn't. Oh, I brought it to 44, yes. I meant to bring it down smaller, I think. So we'll highlight that. Let me try that 32 again there. For some reason it didn't seem to take. I don't know why. And hit my enter key. Okay, just check that. All right. Okay, let's save all again and try this one more time here. I think it just didn't take. Maybe I didn't hit my enter key last time. But there it is at its largest size. And then when I get smaller than 1099, yeah, that's better. And I'm going to live with that. That's okay. It does change a little bit here, but I believe, and we'll find out when I put my next media query in there, that may address that change. So I'm not going to get too crazy about that right now. Okay, so we've got one trigger here. And as we get lower than that 600, actually lower than the 600 currently, we'll just address the global styles. Okay, but we are going to put a distinct media query to address that smaller area as well. So back to Dreamweaver. And we'll do the final one here. So I think I'll use the bar this time again. And I'll go down to 599. And you can read it out. You'll see a little readout up here. And just go to 599 if you can get it. And if I have to, I guess I could correct it in my media query ultimately. 599. Okay. So let's see here. Let's click the plus button. And this will be maximum width. Yes, maximum width. And you can see here how it shows from 0 to 599. I do want to save it in my current CSS style sheet. Click OK. And there is our third media query. And let's see here. Let's adjust the color of that bar. And we'll also address this headline. Actually, you know what? We may not need to adjust the headline because I intend to actually put these two guys into a single column. But we will adjust the color of the bar to start with. So that was the navigation. style. So I'm going to right click on that from my global settings. Duplicate into media query, max width 599. And then I'll go to that query, highlight that selector, and let's see here. We will go down to the gradient. And again, I'll highlight what was black, and I don't know, I'll go with some kind of rusty color here. Okay, and there you have it. Okay, so that's below 599. That's the next one up, and that's the next one up from there. Let's just do a save all right now. And we can quickly check that in the browser, and then I'll address the stacking, if you will, with the layout. Okay, so there's our largest format, and then when I hit that threshold, that changes, the headline changed, and then when we get even smaller, you can see the bar changed as well. So the next step will be to change the layout. Okay, so back to Dreamweaver again. And the layout was more or less dictated by the side tag and the section tag. So I'm going to copy both of those into this latest media query. So let's just go down here. There's the section tag, right click it, duplicate into media query, maximum width 599, and I will grab the other one called aside as well, right here. Duplicate into media query, maximum width 599, and then I'll go to that media query, and I'm just going to take the float out, and then I'm going to make it 100% of the width. So why don't we click over here actually, so we'll watch it change as we go here. We'll remove the float, float none, and then this I will change to 100. Actually, I'll just scroll up to it here, 100%. Okay, and I'll do that on both. So that's the section, and we'll turn off the float right off of here, and we'll also make that one 100% wide and have a quick peek at that. Okay, getting there. Okay, there we go. And there's our new layout. All right, let's do a save all. We'll check this in the browser. Okay, so there we are at the full size, and then we're going to jump over to the mid size right there. Now I see I have an issue with the video. It looks a little squished, but it will play back. If I click it here, it will play back proportionally. So we're okay with that. All right, the headline got smaller as well. And if I go very small here, it changes the color of the headline area, the nav area, and we have switched our layout. That's a more dramatic switch from 2 columns to 1 single column. Okay, and there we go. So I think we can leave it at that. If you want to go in and make more detailed changes, again, you can go in. Let me go back to Dreamweaver here. Just open my browser width a bit. Back to Dreamweaver. And you simply go to the style you wish to copy and paste into the appropriate or the desired media query, then make your changes there. All right. So I'll just remind you how that works. Let's say I wanted to change the body thing, like I could change the background even, anything. Right click, duplicate into media query, send it to the appropriate media query, and let's say I go to the max width 599. I go in here, and there is my body tag, and I can change anything I want. I'm actually going to delete that from there, but that's how you can customize any style you want based on the media query that it is contained inside. And I'll remind you, global is all of them, and it affects all the media queries until they are overridden by another style by the same name. Okay, let's take a quick look. I'm going to save all here at the code itself. Okay, so I'm going to go to my CSS style sheet, click on code view, and media query in the style sheet looks like this. Okay, it just says at media, and it declares or defines the width, and then you have your classic curly braces with the properties contained inside. Okay, and you can see I have 3 media queries here. All right, and I'll go back to split view, and Take one more quick look in the browser. Okay, so again, media queries help you to define the content based on the device, which is actually based on the width of the browser. Okay, and here's the one meant for phones. And as you can see, it's a single column versus a double column in the other two media queries. So that's our assignment for today. The new content today was the media queries at the very end of the assignment. And when you're done that, zip up your root folder and hand that into Canvas.